My husband put my failure in writing. He signed it in front of a lawyer. He tied it to a banknote for $39,800. And he gave his older brother the first legal chance to buy the farm, if I could not keep it working. Then he died before he could explain why he had done it. What saved the farm was not the bank. It was not the lawyer. And it was not one man in Oblaze County who believed I knew enough to stay. It was 11 rusted Massey-Harris combines I bought for $126 because every man at that auction thought they were too small to matter. The auction was held on a Thursday morning in June of 1978 behind a failed machinery dealer outside Salina, Ohio. The lot was flat, sunburned, and hard as fired clay. Rows of equipment sat under the heat with auction numbers wired to them. Tractors went first, then wagons, then plows, disc gangs, augers, toolboxes, and a row of new tires that still smelled faintly of rubber. By 11 o'clock the useful iron was gone. What remained sat at the back fence, 11 Massey-Harris Model 21 combines from the 1950s. Marrow machines. Faded red paint, open platforms. Canvas elevators cracked from weather, gasoline Continental engines that most young mechanics had not touched in years. Their tires were low, their headers leaned. One had a bird nest packed under the feeder house, two had grain tanks rusted through at the corners. They looked like machinery that had already lost the argument. Vernon Pike, the auctioneer, did not bother starting at a number. He pointed at them with the rolled paper in his hand and said, "Who'll give anything for the whole row?" The men in the lot smiled before anyone spoke. Someone said the scrap man must have missed them. Another said he would charge extra to take them away. A third said even the weeds had given up on them. Then a woman's voice came from the back. $126. That was the first time all morning the lot went quiet. Ruth Whitaker stood near the fence with her purse held under one arm and a folded notebook in her hand. She was 48 years old, brown hair pinned badly under a straw hat, canvas trousers tucked into mud-stained work boots, hands rough enough to make a ring look misplaced. She had driven 52 minutes from her farm near New Bremen before sunrise. She had walked the row twice while the men were bidding on things they understood. She had checked frame rails, final drives, cylinder housings, gear cases, and serial plates. She had not looked at the paint. Vernon Pike stared at her for a moment. Then he looked at the combines. Then he looked back at Ruth. A man near the front laughed through his nose. Vernon lifted the gavel. "Sold," he said. To Mrs. Whitaker. The laughter followed her across the gravel. It followed the receipt into her purse. It followed the tow truck she hired the next morning. And by the end of that week, when all 11 machines stood nose to tail along the west edge of her pasture, it had become the most repeated story in 3 townships. The widow had bought a fence line full of junk, but the people laughing did not know about the blue binders. They did not know about Ida Halverson. And they did not know what Ruth's husband had written into the paper that was supposed to protect his farm. Samuel Whitaker died on October 9, 1975 in the doorway of the milk house. He was 53. He had farmed 190 acres of dark Ohio clay for 26 years. He was careful with money, cautious with weather, and almost impossible to surprise. He loved Ruth the way many men of his generation loved. By fixing roofs before rain, keeping fuel in the tank, and never letting a bill go past due. But he did not believe she could run the farm without him, not because he thought she was foolish, not because he was cruel, because the world he came from had arranged knowledge by gender so completely that he mistook arrangement for truth. The day after the funeral, Ruth sat in an upstairs office above a feed store in Wapakoneta while attorney Harold Cresswell read Samuel's estate papers. The farm carried a note for $39,800. The money had gone into tile drainage, a corn crib rebuild, and a used International 815 combine Samuel had never stopped calling temperamental. Samuel's older brother, Martin, had co-signed the note. The estate addendum said that if Ruth failed to maintain personal agricultural operation of the property through November 1st, 1983, the note could be called under the original terms. And if the note was called, Martin had the right of first refusal on any forced sale. Ruth asked Harold what personal agricultural operation meant. He adjusted his glasses and said it meant the farm could not simply be rented out. The land had to be worked under her active management, with records. Ruth nodded. She folded her hands. She thanked him. Then she drove home behind a hay wagon so slowly she could have counted every cracked board in its tailgate. That night, she sat at the kitchen table and looked out at the machinery shed. Samuel's International Combine was parked inside. It was big, modern, complicated, and already developing hydraulic trouble. The dealer in Lima charged just to come look at it. When it broke, the farm had to wait for a man in a service truck, who treated Ruth like someone standing too close to a machine. She stared at that shed for a long time. Then she went to the bedroom closet. She knelt down. She moved a hat box, 2 quilts, and Samuel's winter boots. Behind them was a flat wooden case with a brass latch. Inside were 5 blue binders. Ida Halverson had given them to her in 1968. Ida was a widow too, though not the kind anyone pitied for long. She had run the machine room at a war plant in Dayton, repaired farm engines afterward, and spent 20 years in a cinder block shop behind her house, rebuilding combines that dealers no longer wanted to touch. She smoked filterless cigarettes. She wore men's coveralls. She could diagnose a bad bearing by putting 2 fingers on a housing and closing her eyes. Ruth met her in 1962, when Samuel's old Massey threw a cylinder belt 2 days before wheat harvest. The dealer was backed up. Samuel was furious. Ruth removed the broken pulley guard herself, wrapped the belt in newspaper, and drove it to Ida's shop because she had heard from a neighbor that the woman could fix anything with a shaft. Ida looked at the belt. Then she looked at Ruth. "Do you want the part?" Ida asked. "Or do you want to understand why it failed?" No one had ever offered Ruth the second thing. She said, "Both." What began as 1 repair became 6 years. Ruth went to Ida's shop on Wednesdays when Samuel thought she was at town errands. She learned the logic of old combines. Not the romance of them. The logic. Light frame. Simple drive path. Belts where later machines used sealed systems. Bearings you could reach. Engines that gave warning before they quit. Adjustments that mattered more than horsepower if a person knew where to look. Ida taught her to rebuild the Continental F162 engine. She taught her to set cylinder clearance by sound and feel. She taught her how wet straw changed the voice of a machine. She taught her how a final drive complained before it failed. She taught her what rust meant and what it did not mean. The binders were Ida's life in ink. Exploded sketches, parts numbers, field notes, repair mistakes, improvised fixes, which pulleys from a case machine could be adapted, which bearings from a truck axle would fit if a dealer shelf was empty, how to lighten a header without weakening it, how to make an old combine travel across soft ground without cutting its own grave. On the inside cover of the first binder, Ida had written 1 sentence. "A machine does not have to impress the road. It has to answer the field." Ruth read that line the night Samuel died. She read it again after Harold Cresswell explained the addendum. And she read it a 3rd time before she drove to the auction in Salina. Because the farm did not need a machine that impressed the road. It needed a machine she could understand completely. The 11 combines arrived on borrowed trailers over 4 days. Ruth arranged them along the pasture by number. Not by how they looked. By what could be saved. Machines 2, 6, and 10 had frame damage too deep for field work. They became donors. Machine 8 had a cracked block. Donor. Machine 3 had the cleanest cylinder housing. Machine 5 had the best rear axle. Machine 11 had a header nobody in the lot had noticed because the rust made it ugly. By September, every machine had a page in Ruth's new ledger. By October, parts covered the east wall of the barn in labeled coffee cans. By November, the men driving by had slowed down so often the grass at the ditch had tire tracks in it. Martin Whitaker came the second week of November. He arrived in a new tan pickup and parked where Samuel used to park, which Ruth noticed before he opened the door. Martin was taller than Samuel, broader, and carried himself with the heavy confidence of a man who believed the world explained itself to him first. He stood by the pasture fence and looked at the line of rusted machines. Then he walked into the barn, where Ruth was on a stool beside machine 3 with the carburetor spread open on a clean towel. "People are concerned," he said. Ruth did not look up. "About what?" He nodded toward the pasture. "About this." She placed the small brass jet on the towel. "Martin said Samuel would not have wanted his place turned into a junkyard. He said the note was still real. He said the addendum had conditions. He said pride could make a person confuse activity with competence." Ruth wiped her hands on a rag. "Samuel wanted a farm that worked," she said. Martin waited for more. There was no more. He left angry enough to spin gravel at the end of the lane. Ruth returned to the carburetor. By Christmas, machine 3 started. Not cleanly, not proudly. It coughed blue smoke, knocked twice, then found compression and settled into a rough idle that made the barn boards tremble. Ruth stood beside it in the cold with one hand on the governor housing. She did not cheer. She listened. The sound told her what still needed work. The first winter was resurrection. The second was correction. By the fall of 1979, Ruth had 4 machines running. By the spring of 1980, she had 6. By late summer, she had 8 that could harvest if the operators respected them. She harvested her own 190 acres with those 8 small combines, while neighbors watched from road ditches and shook their heads. The work took longer than a big machine would have taken, but the repair bills were smaller. The fuel burn was lighter. And every time a machine complained, Ruth knew what it meant. At night, she wrote everything down. Cylinder speed, moisture, field condition, belts replaced, bearings heating, header vibration, fuel use, acres covered, loss behind the machine. She did not write for anyone's approval. She wrote because Ida had taught her that a machine without a notebook was a machine waiting to repeat its mistakes. In January of 1981, Ruth made the move no one saw coming. She visited 3 old farmers whose land was beginning to outrun their bodies. Calvin Rowe had 240 acres and bad knees. Ed Stoller had 180 acres and a heart doctor who kept using the word reduce. Walter Niekamp had 300 acres, 2 sons who had moved to Toledo, and no interest in selling the soil his father had cleared. Ruth offered each man a share arrangement. They kept the land. She did the field work. They received a share of the crop value. She received the rest. It was not charity. It was not rescue. It was a system. By March, she was responsible for 910 acres. Martin called it reckless when he heard. He called Harold Cresswell and asked if Ruth had violated the spirit of Samuel's addendum by expanding beyond her capacity. Harold read the language again and said the opposite. Active agricultural operation was not weakened by additional farm contracts. It was strengthened by them. Martin did not repeat that opinion. That May, a man named Russell Voss drove up Ruth's Lane in a black Oldsmobile. He represented Buckeye Industrial Properties, a development firm buying farmland along the new road improvement corridor. He was polite. He was patient. He wore shoes too clean for the yard. He told Ruth the company had reviewed the region. He said her acreage sat in a useful position. He said they could offer $168,000, cash, with closing inside 60 days. Ruth listened on the porch. Then she said, "No." Russell Voss smiled like he had expected the first answer to be no. He said opportunities changed when markets changed. He said he would leave his card. He said he hoped she would think carefully. Ruth took the card because refusing paper felt theatrical. After he left, she used it as a shim under the short leg of the kitchen radio. 3 months later, someone came into the barn after dark and pulled the drain plugs from the final drives on machines 3 and 5. Ruth found the oil on the floor at 5 in the morning. A black, spreading shine under the 2 strongest machines. She stood in the doorway long enough for the anger to sharpen into something useful. Then she closed the barn door behind her and went to work. The plugs were gone. Not dropped. Gone. The housings had not run dry. That was the only mercy. Whoever had done it knew enough to hurt her, but not enough to finish the job. She drove to a truck yard outside Lima, bought 2 matching plugs from a man who did not ask questions, flushed both housings, checked for metal, refilled the drives, and ran the machines on blocks until the oil warmed. By midnight, both machines were ready. She sat on an overturned bucket and read the sentence inside Ida's first binder again. A machine does not have to impress the road. It has to answer the field. Ruth looked at the oil stains on the barn floor. Then answer, she said. The fall of 1981 began wet and then turned worse. Rain came in September, then again, then again. It did not arrive as a storm worth remembering. It arrived as the kind of steady gray weather that ruins things by refusing to leave. The clay fields took water until they could take no more. Lane edges softened, low spots shined. Wheel tracks filled and stayed full. Modern combines were heavier every year. Wider, more powerful, more expensive. And in that wet October, all that size became liability. A John Deere sank near St. Mary's so deep the owner left it overnight with the ladder sticking out of the mud like a dock post. An International near Minster broke an axle trying to turn out of a soybean field. A dealer demo machine buried itself before noon on a Friday, and needed a crawler tractor and 2 chains to get free. Every day the crop stood, farmers lost money. Corn moisture climbed, soybean pods started shattering. Contracts came due. Bankers made calls in voices that pretended not to be nervous. And Ruth's 8 little Massey-Harris combines kept moving. They did not float. That was the story people wanted to tell later. But it was wrong. They were simply light enough, narrow enough, and tuned carefully enough not to punish the ground. Their tires pressed in and climbed back out. Their headers were trimmed. Their tanks were emptied before weight became a problem. Their turns were planned. Their operators were trained to hear trouble early. Ruth had spent the summer teaching 5 drivers from the farm she worked. She taught them throttle feel. She taught them not to fight the steering. She taught them how a belt sounded before it slipped. She taught them never to fill a grain tank to pride when the ground was soft. She mounted toolboxes on each frame. She put spare belts, bearings, plugs, wire, grease, and handwritten checklists inside. She ran the lead machine, not because she wanted to be seen, because that was where the first bad patch would appear. On October 12th, a reporter named Neil Haskins from the Wapakoneta Daily News drove out to the Rohe ground after hearing that a widow with a string of antique combines was harvesting fields everyone else had abandoned. He arrived before dawn. For the first few minutes, he could hear them before he could see them. A higher sound than diesel. Lighter. Uneven at first. Then strangely coordinated. 8 faded red machines came out of the gray in a staggered line, headlights low in the fog, corn folding into the headers as if the field were being unzipped. Neil stood at the fence with his notebook open and forgot to write. The machines moved slowly. But they moved together. When one tank neared full, that combine peeled toward the lane, unloaded into a waiting truck, and returned before the line lost shape. The drivers did not rush. Ruth's voice came over the CB in short instructions. Machine 4, empty at half. Machine 7, watch the low corner. Truck 2, stay on gravel.
Nobody turns loaded. It was not spectacle, it was discipline.
By noon, Meal had filled 7 pages. By dark, he had the first article. The headline did not make Ruth happy. Widow's old combines beat the mud. She said the mud had not been beaten. It had been understood. Meal printed that in the second article. By the 4th day, people were driving out to watch from the road. Some were curious. Some were grateful. Some came because they had laughed at the row of machines in Ruth's pasture and wanted to stand close enough to the truth to rearrange their memory of themselves. Martin came on the 6th day. He parked a quarter-mile from the field and stood beside his truck while Ruth's line moved across the Niekamp soybeans. Neil Haskins saw him and walked over. They watched without speaking for a while. Martin's face was not angry. That surprised Neil. It looked worse than anger. It looked like a man trying to keep an old certainty from breaking in public. Neil asked what he thought. Martin kept his eyes on the field. Samuel didn't know half of what she knew, he said. Then he got in his truck and left slowly. Russell Voss called Neil's office 2 days later. Buckeye Industrial Properties owned 520 acres of standing crop on 3 parcels they had purchased the year before. Their contracted harvest crew had already buried 2 machines. Their delivery agreement carried penalties beginning November 1st. The number, Neil later learned, was just over $1 million. Russell wanted to know whether Ruth Whitaker's operation had capacity. Neil told Ruth that evening at her kitchen table. He said the company that tried to buy her farm now needed her to save theirs. Ruth looked at her ledger. She looked at the list of farmers she had already promised. She looked at the weather notes. Then she made a mark with her pencil. After Niekamp, she said, and after the Widmer beans, if they hold. Then I'll talk to Mr. Voss. There was no smile in it. That disappointed Neil a little. He had wanted a line. But Ruth was not arranging justice. She was arranging harvest. She called Russell Voss 3 days later. She named the standard custom rate. Not higher. Not lower. No punishment rate. No favor rate. Russell accepted before she finished the sentence. Buckeye's fields were last. By then, Ruth's operation had harvested her own 190 acres. 720 under share agreements, and more than 2,000 acres for farmers whose big equipment could not enter the fields. The old machines were tired. So were the drivers. So was Ruth. But every evening, the checklists were done. Every belt was inspected. Every warm bearing was found. Every machine was fueled light enough for the next morning's ground. On the second afternoon of the Buckeye job, Russell Voss came to the field. This time he wore boots. He stood at the fence for nearly an hour, watching the red machines move through corn his company had assumed was nearly lost. When Ruth stopped to fuel, he approached carefully. He said her name. She looked at him. He said Buckeye would no longer pursue the Whitaker farm. He said the company had misunderstood the value of certain land in the county. He said some properties were worth more under the people who knew how to work them than they were on any development map. Ruth tightened the fuel cap. That's good to know, she said. Then she climbed back onto the platform and drove away. Meal's final harvest article ran the first week of November. He printed the numbers because Ruth's ledgers made them impossible to soften. 190 acres of Whitaker land, 720 acres under share contracts, 2,460 acres of custom harvest, 520 acres for Buckeye Industrial Properties. A total of 3,890 acres harvested in the wettest October the county had seen in 41 years. 8 Massey-Harris combines, bought for $126. Rebuilt from 11 machines everyone else had dismissed as scrap. Ruth read the article at the kitchen table. She folded it once, then again. Then she put it in the wooden case with Ida's binders. The legal filing arrived 12 days later.
Martin Whitaker's attorney argued that the farm note still stood, that the addendum did not erase the debt, and that Martin retained rights under the original cosigner agreement. Harold Cresswell represented Ruth. He had moved slower since Samuel died. His suits had not improved, but he knew the file. At the hearing, Martin's lawyer spoke for 20 minutes.
Harold spoke for 3. He placed Samuel's addendum on the judge's desk. Then he placed a bank letter beside it.
The letter came from the regional institution that had absorbed the original lender. It confirmed the private satisfaction agreement Samuel had executed in 1974. If Ruth maintained active agricultural operation through November 1, 1983, the remaining balance would be considered satisfied. Not because the bank was sentimental, because Samuel had structured a protected reserve account with grain receipts and life insurance proceeds that would settle the note if the farm remained operating. Then Harold read one paragraph from Samuel's own hand. My intention is not to remove the farm from my wife. My intention is to prevent anyone, including my brother, from taking advantage of the first hard years after my death.
If Ruth proves the farm can continue under our management, the debt is to be treated as paid. The courtroom made no sound. Ruth looked down at her hands. For 7 years, she had believed the paper was proof that Samuel doubted her. It had been that. But it had also been something else. A clumsy protection. A man's late private correction. A sentence he wrote because he had seen more than he knew how to say. Martin's lawyer asked for time to review the bank record. The judge gave him 10 minutes. At the end of 10 minutes, there was nothing left to argue. The petition was dismissed. The debt was satisfied. The right of first refusal died on the page where it had been born. Martin did not come to the farm after that. Vernon Pike did. Not in person. He wrote a letter. It arrived in December, block letters on lined paper. He said he had told the auction story many times. He said he had always told it, as if the strange part was that Ruth had bought the combines. He said he understood now that the strange part was that a whole crowd of men had looked at the same machines and seen nothing, because the person who understood them was standing behind them. He apologized. Ruth read the letter twice. Then she put it in the wooden case behind Ida's binders, beside Neil Haskins's article and Harold Cresswell's copy of Samuel's addendum. In the spring of 1982, Calvin Rowe renewed his share agreement. So did Ed Stoller. So did Walter Niekamp. 2 more farmers asked whether Ruth had room for their ground. She said she might. By then, the pasture no longer looked like a junk line. It looked like a yard with history in it. The donor machines were stripped clean. The working 8 had fresh bearings, patch panels, adjusted headers, and ledgers thick with use. A young driver named Paul Rowe stayed on to work for Ruth full-time because, he said, he wanted to learn how she heard a machine before it spoke plainly. She told him to be at the barn at 6. He came at 6. One winter morning, Ruth opened Ida's first binder at the kitchen table. The pages smelled faintly of oil and dust. Her own ledger sat beside them now, wrapped in tape at the spine, swollen with field notes, repair records, and margins full of lessons she had paid for in time and skin. Ida's sentence was still inside the cover. A machine does not have to impress the road. It has to answer the field. Ruth touched the line once with her thumb. Outside, the fields lay flat under a pale sky. The machines waited in the shed, ugly in places, useful in every place that mattered. For years, people had looked at Ruth and seen a widow. They had looked at the combines and seen scrap. They had looked at the paper and seen a trap. The field had seen more clearly. It knew what the machines could do, and it knew who had taught them to answer.